Relax into the feeling. Let those words move through you slowly, because they are not a suggestion. They are an instruction from something deeper than your thinking mind. Somewhere inside you right now, there is a place that already knows what you have been striving so hard to create. There is a place that does not need convincing, does not need proof, does not need permission. And the moment you stop fighting your way toward what you want and instead soften into the feeling of already possessing it, everything begins to move. Not because you pushed harder, not because you worked longer, but because you finally aligned with the one force that has been shaping your life since before you had language for it, your own consciousness. Understand this. You have spent so much of your life believing that receiving requires struggle. You were taught, whether directly or through the quiet conditioning of a world obsessed with effort, that anything worth having must be earned through tension, through anxiety, through relentless doing. But look closely at every moment in your life when something wonderful arrived unexpectedly, when a door opened before you even knocked, when the right person appeared at exactly the right time. Was it born from strain, or did it come more often than not in a moment when you had let go, when you were relaxed, when you had simply trusted that things were working out? Let that sink into your spirit. The evidence has always been there. You only needed the eyes to see it. Neville Goddard spent his life trying to communicate one radical, world-altering idea. That imagination is not decoration for the mind. It is the very substance of creation itself. He said that the world we see is nothing more than our consciousness pushed out, made visible, given form. And if that is true, and the truth of it will become undeniable to you the longer you walk this path, then what you imagine with feeling is not fantasy, it is architecture. It is the blueprint from which your outer life is being continuously built, moment by moment, whether you are aware of it or not. Think about this for a moment. Right now, in this instant, you are not merely a passive observer of your life, you are its author. Every scene you have ever lived, every relationship, every circumstance, every triumph and every heartbreak was first assumed within you before it ever appeared outside of you. This is not a metaphor. This is not poetic language meant to inspire you temporarily before you return to old patterns of doubt. This is a law as real and as consistent as gravity, though invisible to the physical eye. Your assumptions, the feelings you inhabit again and again, are the seeds from which your entire experience grows. So when you hear the words relax into the feeling, understand what is truly being asked of you. You are being asked to stop trying to force the outer world to change through sheer will, and instead to shift your attention inward to the one place where change actually originates, your own state of consciousness. You are being invited to feel now as you would feel if what you desire had already come to pass. Not to hope for it, not to wish for it, not to beg for it, but to feel it as already yours, and then to relax, because a seed that has been planted does not need to be dug up every hour to check if it is growing. It needs only warmth, darkness, and time. Your feeling is the warmth. Your relaxed trust is the darkness in which unseen growth occurs. And divine timing, not your anxious timeline, but a timing wiser than your conscious mind could ever calculate, is the process that brings it into visible form. Let this settle within you. You have likely spent years chasing the very things you were trying to feel. Chasing love because you did not feel loved. Chasing money because you did not feel abundant. Chasing recognition because you did not feel worthy. And chasing by its very nature pushes away what it pursues, because chasing is rooted in the assumption of lack. You cannot authentically chase something while simultaneously feeling as though you already have it. The chase itself is proof to your subconscious mind that the object of your desire is absent. And your subconscious mind, being the faithful servant that it is, will continue to manifest experiences that confirm its absence, because that is the very story you keep feeding it through your feeling of lack, your restlessness, your grasping. But there is another way, the way of assumption, the way of relaxed knowing, the way of feeling the wish fulfilled, not as a distant hope, but as a present reality already alive within you, needing only time to crystallize into physical form. This is the path Neville Goddard walked and taught tirelessly, drawing not from wishful thinking, but from a deep study of Scripture, where he found, hidden beneath centuries of literal interpretation, a psychological and spiritual science more powerful than anything the outer world calls power. Consider the story of the prodigal son, so often told as a simple parable about forgiveness, yet holding within it a far deeper truth about consciousness and return. The son leaves his father's house, wastes his inheritance, and finds himself starving, longing for even the food given to swine. But Scripture says something remarkable in that moment of desperation. It says he came to himself. Not that he came to his senses in the way we often assume, but that he returned to his true identity, his true state of being, the awareness of himself as a son of abundance rather than a beggar in exile. And the moment he assumed that identity again, the moment he turned his consciousness back toward the truth of who he was, everything in his outer world began to move in response. The Father, seeing him while he was still far off, ran to meet him. Understand this deeply. The outer world responded to an inner shift before any outer action had even been completed. The transformation happened first in consciousness. The physical reunion was simply the visible echo of an invisible return. This is your story too. However far you feel you have wandered from the awareness of your own abundance, your own worthiness, your own power to create the life you desire, the return is always available to you. Not through punishment, not through years of penance, but through a single decisive shift in feeling. The moment you come to yourself, the moment you remember who you actually are beneath the layers of doubt and conditioning, everything begins to rearrange itself to match that remembering. You are not the sum of your past failures. You are not the limits others placed on you. You are not the anxious thoughts that visit you in the quiet hours of the night. These are conditions you have passed through, but they are not your identity. Beneath all of that noise is a consciousness so vast, so creative, so intimately connected to the divine source of all things that it can, in a single sustained assumption, rewrite the entire trajectory of your life. You are not a victim of circumstance. You are the very consciousness that gave rise to circumstance in the first place, even the ones you did not consciously choose, because your subconscious absorbed beliefs long before you had the discernment to question them. And what was absorbed unconsciously can be revised consciously. This is the great hope hidden within this teaching. You are never trapped. You are only ever one shift in feeling away from a different life. Feel this deeply. Somewhere within you right now, there exists the fully realized version of everything you have been longing for. Not as a far-off possibility, but as a present spiritual fact, existing in what Neville called the eternal now, the timeless dimension in which every possible version of your life already exists, waiting only for your attention, your feeling, your assumption, to draw it into visible manifestation. This is why he so often said that the feeling is the secret, not the strategy, not the hustle, not the endless analysis of how something impossible might become possible, the feeling. Because feeling is the language of the subconscious mind, and the subconscious mind, once impressed with a feeling held with conviction, works tirelessly day and night, awake and asleep, to arrange the outer conditions that will make that feeling a lived, breathing reality. Allow yourself to see this clearly. Your subconscious mind does not distinguish between an event genuinely lived and one vividly, emotionally imagined. This is not mysticism removed from science. It echoes what modern understanding of the mind has confirmed again and again, that the nervous system responds to a deeply felt imagined scene in remarkably similar ways to how it responds to an actual lived experience. When you close your eyes and feel, truly feel, the relief of the resolved problem, the joy of the reunited relationship, the security of the abundant bank account, your body and your deeper mind do not know the difference between memory and imagination charged with feeling. They begin to organize your beliefs, your posture, your words, your instincts, your intuitive nudges all around that new inner reality. And slowly, sometimes suddenly, the outer world rearranges itself to catch up with what has already become true within you. This is why relaxation is not a luxury on this path. It is a requirement. Tension is the energetic signature of doubt. When you are tense about your desire, gripping it, checking constantly for evidence of its arrival, refreshing your circumstances obsessively for proof, you are, in that very tension, declaring to your subconscious mind that the thing has not yet happened and that you do not trust it will. Relaxation, on the other hand, is the energetic signature of faith. Not blind faith, not naive faith, but the deep, settled faith of someone who has already seen the outcome within and no longer needs the outer world to confirm it before they can rest. Consider this: when you have already eaten a satisfying meal, you do not sit anxiously wondering if you will ever be full again. You are full. The fullness is not something you are waiting for. It is something you are resting in. This is exactly the state you are being called into when you relax into the feeling of your wish fulfilled. You are not waiting to be full. You are already full, resting in the satisfaction of what has in consciousness already occurred. And from that place of restful fullness, the outer world has no choice but to conform, because the outer world has always been and will always be a mirror of the inner world, nothing more and nothing less. You must realize that this is not about denying your current circumstances or pretending that difficulties do not exist. It is about refusing to give those circumstances the final word over your identity and your future. The outer conditions you see today are simply the harvest of seeds planted long ago, feelings and assumptions you may not even remember choosing, absorbed from parents, from culture, from painful experiences that convinced you of certain limitations. But a harvest, however difficult, does not determine what will grow in the next season. The next season depends entirely on what you plant now, in this moment, in the fertile soil of your present feeling. This is why the teaching insists so firmly that you must live from the end. Not live toward the end, straining and reaching, but live from it as though it has already occurred, feeling the natural, relaxed gratitude of someone who has already received. This changes everything about how you move through your days. Instead of a person begging the universe for a future outcome, you become a person who has already received, simply waiting patiently and joyfully for the outer world to catch up with the truth already established within. Notice what happens when you shift into this state, even briefly. Something in your chest loosens, your breathing deepens, thoughts that were racing begin to settle. This physiological shift is not incidental. It is evidence that your body recognizes truth when it feels it, even before your logical mind has caught up. Your body knows the difference between striving and receiving, and when you finally relax into the feeling of already having what you desire, your body responds with the unmistakable signature of peace. That peace is not a reward for having achieved your goal. That peace is the very mechanism through which the goal becomes achieved. This is one of the great inversions of consciousness. You have been taught that peace comes after success. The truth, hidden in plain sight throughout Scripture and confirmed through the lives of countless people who have applied this law, is that peace comes before success, and in fact creates the conditions from which success naturally emerges. Think about this for a moment. The kingdom of God, Christ said, is within you, not somewhere far off, not something to be achieved through decades of struggle, not reserved for a distant afterlife, but within you now, in this very moment. This is one of the most radical statements ever recorded, and yet so much of the world has managed to reduce it to a comforting phrase rather than absorbing its full implication. If the kingdom, the fullness, the abundance, the wholeness is already within you, then nothing you desire needs to be imported from outside yourself. It needs only to be recognized, accepted, and felt as already present, and from that inner recognition, the outer form will inevitably follow. You are not waiting for the universe to decide whether you deserve what you desire. You are not waiting for permission from people who cannot even see the full truth of who you are. You are not waiting for external circumstances to finally align before you are allowed to feel joy, security, love, or abundance. You are the one who determines through your assumption, through your sustained feeling, what will unfold in your experience. This is not arrogance. This is not delusion. This is the sober, sacred responsibility of being made in the image of a creative source, a source that spoke, and it was so. And you, carrying that same creative nature within you, speak not always with words, but with the deeper language of feeling. And it becomes so in your own life, according to the pattern you have impressed upon your subconscious mind. Let this truth settle into the very marrow of your being. Every relationship you have ever experienced, whether nourishing or painful, was shaped by the assumptions you carried about your own worthiness of love. Every financial circumstance you have lived through, whether scarcity or abundance, was shaped by the deep, often unconscious beliefs you held about your relationship to money, to safety, to your own capability. Every opportunity that appeared or failed to appear was shaped by whether you, in your inner world, had already claimed yourself as someone for whom such opportunities were natural and expected. This is not to place blame upon you for the difficulties you have faced. It is instead to place power back into your hands, because if your inner world shaped your outer world before without your conscious awareness, imagine what becomes possible now that you are waking up to this truth, now that you can direct your imagination with intention rather than leaving it to wander unconsciously through fear and doubt. Imagine for a moment what your life would look like if every thought you entertained today was one you would be comfortable seeing manifest exactly as felt. This is not meant to frighten you into perfectionism, constantly monitoring every fleeting thought with anxiety, because anxiety about your thoughts is itself a form of tension that works against you. Rather, it is meant to awaken you to the profound creative responsibility and the profound creative freedom that has been yours all along. You get to choose again and again, moment by moment, which inner story you will inhabit. And the more consistently you choose the story of fulfillment, of already having received, of already being who you long to become, the more swiftly and gracefully that story becomes your lived reality. The truth is, you have already done this before, more times than you may realize. Think back to a time when you were entirely certain of an outcome, when doubt simply did not occupy space in your mind, and that outcome arrived almost effortlessly, exactly as you expected it to. Perhaps it was something small, knowing with absolute certainty you would pass a test, knowing a friend would call before they did, knowing a particular day would go well, despite no evidence at first. In those moments you were not straining, you were not gripping the outcome with white knuckles. You were simply certain, relaxed in your certainty, and the certainty itself became the channel through which the outcome flowed. This is proof, gathered from your own life, that the law you are now learning to apply consciously has always been operating, whether you named it or not. This is why the work now is not to learn something entirely foreign, but to remember something you have always known at a deeper level, and to apply it deliberately, consistently, and with reverence to the larger desires of your life, the healing you long for, the love you long to experience, the abundance you long to feel flowing freely through your hands, the peace you long to carry as your natural state, rather than a fleeting visitor. Consider this: every great spiritual tradition beneath its outer rituals and doctrines has whispered some version of this same truth. Ask, and it shall be given. Whatsoever you desire when you pray, believe that you have received it, and it shall be given unto you. Notice the precision of that language. Not believe that you will receive it someday in some uncertain future, but believe that you have already received it now in this present moment, and only then does the outer manifestation follow. This is the exact posture Neville Goddard spent his life illuminating, drawing directly from these ancient words and revealing their psychological, practical, deeply personal application. The prayer is not a request sent outward into some distant heaven. The prayer is an inner act of feeling performed within your own consciousness, and consciousness itself is the very substance through which the divine creates. You must realize that you are not separate from this creative source. You are not a small, powerless being begging a distant deity for scraps of mercy. You are, in your deepest identity, an expression of that very creative consciousness, made in its image, carrying within you the same imaginative power that spoke worlds into being. This is why your imagination, when charged with feeling and sustained with quiet conviction, holds such extraordinary power. It is not a lesser reflection of divine creativity. It is divine creativity operating through you, as you, in the particular corner of existence that is your life. Let that sink into your spirit. You are not asking permission from God to create the life you desire. You are remembering that God's creative power operates through your imagination and your feeling, and that the very impulse within you to desire something better, something more beautiful, something more whole, is itself the divine drawing you forward into greater expression. Your desires are not selfish distractions from spiritual life. Your desires, rightly understood, are the very compass by which the infinite calls you deeper into the fullness of what you were always meant to become. So when you feel that familiar tug toward a particular outcome, a particular relationship, a particular level of abundance or health or peace, do not dismiss it as unworthy of spiritual attention. Honor it. Because behind every genuine desire is a truer version of yourself, already whole, already fulfilled in that specific way, reaching backward through time and circumstance to draw you toward itself. This is why some desires feel less like wants and more like knowings, like memories of a future already secured, waiting patiently for your consciousness to catch up and claim it as your present reality. Understand this: the gap you feel between where you are and where you long to be is not evidence of distance. It is evidence of tension between two states of consciousness competing for your identification. The state of lack you have been unconsciously assuming, and the state of fulfillment your soul already senses as true and available. Every moment you are choosing, whether consciously or unconsciously, which of these states to identify with, to feel from, to speak from, to act from. And the entire practice of relaxing into the feeling of the wish fulfilled is simply the practice of consistently choosing the truer, higher state until it becomes so familiar, so natural, so thoroughly your own, that the lower state can no longer find any foothold within you. This does not happen through force, it happens through gentle repeated return. Just as a river carves its path through stone, not through violent impact, but through the patient persistence of flowing water returning again and again to the same course, your consciousness carves new pathways of belief, not through white-knuckled willpower, but through the soft, repeated return to the feeling of already being, already having, already receiving. Each time you catch yourself slipping into worry, into doubt, into the anxious grasping of lack, you simply, gently, without self-judgment, return your attention to the feeling of fulfillment. Over time, this returning becomes so practiced that it becomes your default, your home, the state to which your mind naturally gravitates. This is the deeper meaning behind the invitation to relax. It is not passive. It is not lazy resignation dressed up in spiritual language. It is the active, ongoing choice to release your grip on how things must happen, while holding steady conviction that they will happen because you have already claimed them within. This is faith in its truest sense, not the absence of desire, not the absence of vision, but the presence of unwavering inner knowing, even while the outer world has not yet visibly shifted to match it. Think about a seed planted deep in the soil. In the days immediately following its planting, there is no visible evidence of growth. If you were to dig it up daily to check on its progress, you would destroy the very process you are trying to witness. The seed needs darkness. It needs to be left undisturbed. It needs time working invisibly beneath the surface before any green shoot breaks through into the light. Your assumptions, your feelings held in faith, work in precisely the same way. The moment you plant the feeling of the wish fulfilled deep within your consciousness, an invisible process begins, one that your conscious mind cannot fully witness or control, but one that is nonetheless real, nonetheless active, nonetheless moving steadily toward visible expression. Your task is not to dig up the seed daily through anxious checking. Your task is to trust the unseen process, to water it occasionally with renewed feeling, and to relax, knowing that growth is happening even when it cannot yet be seen. This is where so many people unintentionally sabotage their own manifestations. They plant a beautiful feeling, a genuine assumption of the wish fulfilled, and then within hours or days, they begin digging it back up through worry, through checking for evidence, through voicing doubt to friends, through returning obsessively to the old feeling of lack whenever visible progress seems slow. Each time this happens, the seed is disturbed, its growth interrupted, and the entire process must in a sense begin again. This is not because the law has failed, it is because the law is perfectly faithfully responding to whatever state is being held with the most consistency and conviction, and if doubt is held more consistently than faith, doubt becomes what is harvested. This is why the discipline of relaxing into the feeling is in truth one of the most profound spiritual disciplines available to you, more transformative than years of surface-level effort aimed only at outer circumstances. It asks you to become the guardian of your own inner atmosphere, refusing entry to any thought or feeling that contradicts the reality you have chosen to assume, not through suppression, not through denial of what is difficult, but through a steady, gentle redirection back to truth each time you notice yourself drifting. Consider this. You would never allow a stranger to walk into your home and rearrange your furniture, disturb your peace, and speak insults into your family without some kind of boundary being drawn. Yet how often do you allow stray thoughts of doubt, fear, comparison, and lack to wander freely through the sacred space of your own mind, rearranging your inner world without any resistance at all? Learning to relax into the feeling of your wish fulfilled requires you to become the gracious but firm guardian of your own consciousness, gently escorting out any visitor that does not belong in the house of your true, chosen identity. This does not mean pretending difficult emotions do not exist. Suppression is not the same as transformation. When fear or doubt arises, and it will, because you are human and still moving through a world of contrast, you do not need to shame yourself for feeling it. Instead, you can acknowledge it honestly and then gently ask yourself, is this feeling one I wish to plant seeds with today, or is there a truer feeling, a higher assumption that I choose to return to instead? This simple repeated act of conscious redirection practiced with patience and self-compassion rather than harsh self-discipline is what gradually retrains your subconscious mind to default toward faith rather than fear. You must realize that this retraining takes time, not because the law is slow, but because old patterns of feeling have often been rehearsed for years, sometimes decades, and a new pattern needs sufficient repetition to become equally or more familiar. Be patient with yourself in this process. Every time you choose the higher feeling, even for a few minutes, even amid a day otherwise filled with old patterns, you are laying down new neural and spiritual pathways that will, with continued practice, become the well-worn road your consciousness naturally travels. Let this truth comfort you if you feel discouraged by how long change seems to be taking. Nothing is wasted. Every moment you have spent relaxing into the feeling of your wish fulfilled, even imperfectly, even amid doubt, has been recorded within your consciousness and is contributing to the eventual, inevitable manifestation of your desire. The seed does not know how many times you doubted before you finally trusted. It simply responds to whatever feeling is present in each moment of assumption. And every moment of genuine felt trust adds to the accumulating momentum that will, in divine timing, break through into visible form. Divine timing deserves its own quiet reflection here, because so many people, in their eagerness, mistake delay for denial. You must understand that the outer world often requires certain conditions to align, certain other people's choices to unfold, certain circumstances to shift, before your desire can manifest in a way that is truly good for you, truly sustainable, truly aligned with your highest becoming. What feels like delay from your limited vantage point is often, from a wiser vantage point, precise and perfect orchestration, arranging every detail so that when your desire does arrive, it arrives in a form more beautiful, more stable, and more deeply fulfilling than you could have designed through anxious, premature grasping. This is why relaxing into the feeling also means relaxing your grip on the exact how and the exact when. You are invited to hold the what and the feeling of its fulfillment with unwavering conviction, while surrendering the mechanics of its arrival to a wisdom far greater than your conscious mind. This is not weakness. This is the deepest form of trust, the trust of a child who does not need to understand the intricate mechanics of how a parent will provide, but simply rests, secure, in the knowledge that provision is coming. Feel this deeply. You are being invited right now in this very moment to lay down the exhausting burden of trying to control every variable of your becoming, and to pick up instead the light, restful yoke of simply feeling, simply assuming, simply trusting. This exchange, this laying down of struggle and picking up of restful faith is available to you the instant you choose it. It does not require years of preparation. It does not require perfect circumstances. It requires only your willingness right now to relax into the feeling of already being who you long to become, already having what you long to receive, already living the life your soul has been quietly whispering toward you since long before you had words to describe it. You are not broken, you are not behind, you are not disqualified by your past mistakes, your painful seasons, or the doubts that have visited you along the way. You are, in this very moment, exactly where you need to be to begin this deeper, truer relationship with your own consciousness. Every experience you have lived, even the difficult ones, has been part of the sacred curriculum that brought you to this exact point of readiness, this exact capacity to receive the teaching you are absorbing right now. Notice what happens when you stop measuring your worthiness by external validation and instead begin measuring it by the quiet, steady conviction growing within you that you are indeed capable of directing your own consciousness toward the life you desire. This shift alone, this quiet reclaiming of inner authority, is one of the most powerful spiritual awakenings available to a human being. You no longer need the world to confirm your value before you can feel valuable. You no longer need circumstances to prove your abundance before you can feel abundant. You no longer need another person's love to arrive before you can feel worthy of love. You claim these states first, within, and the outer world, faithfully and inevitably, arranges itself to reflect what you have claimed. This is your inner authority being restored. For so long, you may have handed the keys to your inner state over to circumstances, to other people's opinions, to the unpredictable tides of daily life. But understand this, those keys were never truly lost. They were only ever temporarily given away. And you can reclaim them right now simply by choosing moment by moment to relax into the feeling of the reality you desire rather than the reality that currently temporarily surrounds you. Allow yourself to see how much of your suffering throughout your life has come not from your actual circumstances, but from your resistance to them, your fighting against what is, your desperate grasping for what is not yet visible. Relaxing into the feeling does not mean denying your circumstances. It means refusing to let your circumstances have the final say over your inner identity. It means holding two realities simultaneously: the outer world as it currently appears, and the inner world as you have chosen, with conviction, to assume it, and trusting with quiet, settled faith that the inner world, being causal, will eventually and inevitably reshape the outer world to match. This is embodiment, not simply believing an idea intellectually, but living from it so consistently that it becomes the very texture of how you move through your days. When you embody the feeling of already being loved, you no longer beg for love in ways that push it away. You simply radiate a quiet security that naturally draws genuine connection toward you. When you embody the feeling of already being abundant, you no longer grip money with anxious scarcity. You handle it, speak of it, and make decisions around it from a place of calm sufficiency, and that calm sufficiency becomes the very atmosphere in which greater abundance can comfortably arrive. When you embody the feeling of already being at peace, you no longer need external circumstances to remain perfectly controlled in order to feel safe. You carry your safety within you, and from that inner safety, wiser decisions, clearer intuition, and more graceful responses to life's inevitable challenges naturally flow. This embodiment is not a performance for others to witness. It is a private, sacred relationship between you and your own consciousness, honored quietly in the moments no one else sees. The moment you choose a peaceful thought instead of a panicked one while lying awake at night. The moment you speak to yourself with the same tenderness you would offer a beloved friend. The moment you close your eyes for even 60 seconds and feel, truly feel, the reality you are choosing to assume before returning to your day, carrying that feeling with you like a quiet, steady flame. As you continue to practice this day after day, something remarkable begins to happen. The line between your inner world and your outer world begins to blur, not because reality itself is confused, but because you are finally recognizing what has always been true, that they were never truly separate to begin with. Your outer world has always been the faithful servant of your inner world, responding precisely, patiently, and without judgment to whatever has been consistently assumed within. And as your inner world becomes more consistently aligned with love, abundance, peace, and worthiness, your outer world has no choice by the very nature of this law but to follow suit. This is expansion. Not a single manifestation and then a return to old patterns, but an ongoing, ever-deepening relationship with your own creative power, one that continues to reveal new dimensions of your life to reclaim, new areas of belief to examine and revise, new levels of peace and abundance and love to embody more fully than you previously thought possible. This journey does not end with a single desire fulfilled. It becomes instead the very way you move through your existence, consciously, intentionally, gently, and with growing reverence for the sacred creative power that has been yours all along. So as you sit with these words now, let yourself relax more deeply than you have allowed yourself to in a long time. Let your shoulders soften. Let your breathing slow. Let go of the tight grip you have been holding around the exact timeline, the exact method, the exact appearance of your desire's arrival, and instead simply feel the quiet satisfaction of already being who you are becoming. Feel the warmth of already having received what you have imagined. Feel the settled peace of a soul that no longer needs to chase because it has remembered finally and completely that everything it has ever truly desired has already been given, waiting only for the recognition, the feeling, the relaxed and certain assumption that allows it to become visible in your one precious unfolding life. You are not behind. You are not too late. You are not asking too much. You are simply remembering. And in this remembering, in this soft, steady return to the truth of who you are and what you carry within you, you are already, right now, in this very moment, receiving what you have imagined.